Now, even before we created these videos on IIS 7, we've had quite a few requests on how we could install WordPress on IIS 7. So in a moment, we're going to do that. We'll get to that, we'll install it. But I will first point out that if you haven't followed the previous couple of videos in this series and installed PHP and MySQL first, then you will want to do that, then come back to this video. So the first thing we'll need to do here is to create a database for WordPress. So we're going to click on Start, All Programs. We'll select MySQL. Under MySQL Server 5.1, we'll launch the command prompt. And then we'll need to enter in the password that we supplied when we installed MySQL. So we'll punch that in there and we'll hit enter. Now, to create our database in MySQL, we'll use the command create database, and then we'll need to supply the name of the database, and you can call it whatever you like really. Although since it's going to be a database for WordPress, then perhaps calling it WordPress isn't a bad idea. Now we'll add in a semicolon at the end, and that's going to indicate to MySQL that this is the end of the line, and we'll hit enter. Alright, well our database has been created, so now we'll need to create a user account to access the database, and we'll give that user account a password as well. So we'll enter in grant all privileges since we'll want to have full control over the database, followed by our keyword on, and then the name of our database, which of course is WordPress. Now we'll need to grant these privileges to a user, so we'll create a user here, and we can call it whatever we like, but let's just call it WP user, which is a fairly common username in WordPress circles, and that'll be at localhost. And by the way, if we want to continue this command on a separate line, we're just going to hit enter here. And notice that we get this little arrow here telling us that this is in fact all going to be one line. You see, if we don't terminate the line with this semicolon, we can just continue the text just as if it was all written on the one single line, as you can see. So the final part to this command is to provide this user, this WP user that we're creating, with a password. So for the sake of this lab here, I'll just give it a password of password, but of course I wouldn't do that in a production environment. I'd make it a much stronger and less guessable password. So we'll say identified by, and then we'll enter in password, where password here is the actual password. And then we'll add in our semicolon and we'll hit enter, and we're done. So to recap, what we've just done here is we've created a database called WordPress, we've created a user called WP user, and we've given it a password of password. So the final thing that we'll do here is to flush the privileges, and we'll hit enter, and we're ready to roll with the installation and configuration of WordPress itself. Now, if you haven't got the WordPress software already, you're going to want to head off to wordpress.org/download. And if we scroll over here on the right, you can see we have a link here to download the latest version of the software, which of course I've already downloaded ahead of time and extracted to my desktop. So I'm going to take this folder and we'll copy it, and then we'll open up Windows Explorer. We'll go to our C drive, inetpub, www.root, and we're going to paste that inside here. Okay, that's done. So we're going to go into our WordPress folder, and we're going to locate this file here, which is wp-config-sample.php, and we'll open this up with WordPad, and we'll scroll down a little bit here. And in this section, we'll need to enter in our username, our password, and the name of the database. And these things should be pretty fresh in your mind. After all, we've only just created them. So firstly, we're going to enter in the name of the database, which of course is WordPress. We're going to enter in our MySQL username here, and our username is going to be WP user. And finally, we're going to enter in the password here, which of course was simply password. Now the final thing you're going to want to do here, and we'll scroll down a little bit, is where you see this section here to put your unique passphrase here is you'll want to replace these passphrases with your own unique passphrases. And it's not really all that important that you remember what you actually enter in here. You can make them pretty difficult to guess or even remember for that matter. So for the purpose of this lab, we can just enter in anything you like here. So let's just enter in some random garbled text. And now we'll go and save this file. Although, rather than just saving it, we're going to go to a file menu here. We'll choose Save As. And we'll need to save this with the file name of just wp-config.php. So we're going to remove this hyphen sample from the file name here, and we'll click Save. And then we'll go to Internet Explorer, and then we'll navigate to our server /WordPress /wp-admin and then install.php. Okay, so here's the login page. So the first thing we need to do is enter in a name for our WordPress blog. So let's just call this one Winstructor blog. We'll also need to enter in an email address for this blog. So we'll just use blog@winstructor.com. And we'll leave the default here to allow this blog to appear in search engines and to be indexed by these. And finally, we'll click the Install WordPress button. Okay, WordPress has been installed, and do take note here of this password that we've been given, as it is our admin password that we'll need to gain access into WordPress. So there you have it, WordPress installed on IIS 7. So we hope you've enjoyed this video, and would like to thank you for watching.